After the incredible events of the Firozshah Kotla, we've moved south, well, not quite south, southeast, if you like, to Cuttack to Orissa, where we're set for the second game of 5, the second T20I between India and South Africa. India looking to bounce back in the series after a game where pretty much they looked like they owned for large parts of it. Will they be able to? What are the team changes? What's the toss news? I can give you the toss news right at the top. South Africa have again won the toss. They've decided to bowl first. So it's time for India to try and figure out how much higher a total can they set, or whatever they set, can they possibly go out and defend. Here on Cricbuzz Live, I'm joined by our A-team, as it were, Joy Bhattacharya, Zaheer Khan. Zaheer, first up, let's talk about the toss later. Just mentally, a few days or a couple of days for India to think about it. How easy is it to put something like that behind you?
Well, you got to just analyze what happened, what we could have done better in the previous game. Just, as they say, back to the drawing board, figure things out. What are the areas which, or what is the approach which we've seen from the South African batters? Like if you look at the Miller and Rassie van der Dusen's innings, Miller was attacking from the word go, and Rassie was taking his time. So that basically is going to be the mental note for all the bowlers. As far as tactics is concerned, it's a mental note for the skipper as well, to make sure that when Rassie is on the strike early on, you got to have people cutting those singles, because that's the way he's going to bat. He's going to look to bat at just around 100 strike rate, not really taking a lot of risk. But Miller, on the other hand, will be looking to impose on the bowlers. So those are the fine little things, which will be the conversations, which will be the discussions. And I hope that all that is ticked nicely, and they're ready for tonight's battle.
Yeah, they certainly are. I'm looking forward to the end of our show when we make our predictions, Joy, because if you look at the history of this game, only 2 T20 internationals played, but in 3 out of those 4 innings, a team failed to get to 100. One team was 92, played 96, and the other game was 180, and the team chasing, that was India against South Africa, and the other one was 180, and this was the one we're talking about, Joy. So interesting pitch to look forward to. We have no idea what it's going to give us.
Yeah, but as I said, the next match, this is a match in 2015. In 2017, India plays Sri Lanka, it scores 180, and then they shoot out Sri Lanka for less than 100. But the point is, India got 180, and this is the big problem when you have such little data. I mean, you've had effectively 2 matches in 5 years' time. So basically, in that, you've got to make a considered decision. And I was just trying to look at the records back, how much Baravati Stadium Cuttack has played in other matches in Mushtaq Ali. There's not been too much Mushtaq Ali out there. It's been a decent pitch. So whoever is talking
about using the internet, no?
So it's not been a bad pitch in the last 2 to 5 years. It's not been a bad pitch. It's been a better pitch than the sluggish pitch that you associate the Baravati with. But as you said, that on that day, with the humidity, with everything, Zach will tell you much more than me. What turns out, what it'll actually be, is so difficult to tell. And this is one big problem with T20 internationals when a lot of other matches are not held out there.
Yeah, it certainly will be. We're not really sure what to expect. But we, of course, will bring you the team news. I think that's going to be important. Generally, you look at a winning team keeping their winning combination, and the team that finishes second best are looking to see what went wrong. But Rishabh Pant, Zaheer, was very clear at the toss that he didn't feel too much went wrong, and they just need to do a few things better, particularly in the bowling department, and they've kept the same 11.
Correct, and we did touch upon this one after the game in our post-match show, that we will not see any changes. It's a 5-match series, so you want to give a fair run to the guys who are playing the first game. You got to be very clear in your communication. You got to have that trust as well in your first playing 11. So for this series, the first playing 11 obviously needed to show that confidence, that trust from the team management, which was good. And And basically, going in this match, like we said, the conversations will be around, what we can do tactically different, how we can approach different scenarios differently, how we can plan differently, how what kind of lengths, what kind of lines, how quickly can we assess the conditions and then make use of them. Is this something, which will be the main focus of the preparation as far as this match is concerned. So I think I'm happy to see that the changes are not made by the Indian team. The South Africa team, when we look at it, it's forced changes. They've won the game, so we were not expecting any changes there, but that was a surprise. But I think from the Indian side, no changes is a positive sign.
Yeah, the two changes we're talking about, one, of course, is a forced change. QDK apparently had a bit of a hamstring issue, so his keeping replacement will be Henrik Larsson. But in terms of the batting, Reza Hendricks will go up the order in all possibility to open with captain Temba Bavuma, and he is replacing Tristan Stubbs. Joy. So a couple of changes there, one forced.
Yeah, one forced. And I think what they've tried to do there is that I think they trust Stubbs. They think he's got a long career ahead of him, but right now on a match which is a crucial match, and I think they feel that if they go 2-0 ahead in the series, they'll really make a difference. And therefore they've decided to go in with experience. Reza Hendricks has had a pretty decent record, and with QDK not there in the opening slot, he's been used in the opening slot before, so I think he's slotted in right well there. They would have liked to have QDK back, but hey, you can't have everything. This is still a very, very strong and a very, very good South African team. Miller's in sublime form. Their bowlers actually have underperformed. So they look at their bowlers and said, you know what? These guys gave away 210. They normally don't give away close to that. They normally give away 30, 40 less than that. So if these guys can come to the party, we have a really decent chance of making it 2-0.
But Zaheer, if you have a closer look at that lineup, the last match was not really anything to go by because of that huge partnership between Miller and Rassie van der Dusen. So even Tristan Stubbs didn't get a look in there. Pretorius went up the order. Essentially, Wayne Parnell coming in on the right column. Yes, he's a bit of an all-rounder, but they don't have a huge batting lineup if you have a look at it. Pretorius all-rounder, Parnell all-rounder, Maharaj can bat a bit. So really, it's only from Hendricks to Klaassen.
That's the trend we are seeing from a lot of the teams. I think the teams are giving emphasis to the bowlers. They understand the value of those 24 deliveries which a bowler has to bowl, and the support if someone is having a tough day out there on the field. So you need that 1/6 bowling option. So that's generally the thought process. You would back your 4 batters to do the job. It's just 120 deliveries, so you got to plan out the phases, and that's certainly the planning from South Africa. And we've seen with the promotion of someone like Dwayne Pretorius in the previous match was a right example of that. So that's the thought process and the tactics which is seen currently in the T20 format, where they're looking to create that one phase batter. Playing that 2 or 3 overs. You've seen it with Ashwin also in IPL. You've seen it here now with Dwayne Pretorius, and I think more and more you'll see these phase batters as well, who can do a multi-dimensional role. And the emphasis is going to be given more to the bowlers to make sure that those 120 deliveries which you have to make the play from are secured nicely.
Yeah, one person who comes to mind, Joy, is Chris Morris. Maybe not quite used as a phase batter, but always impactful down the order. With Pretorius, what he's done in domestic cricket, he didn't maybe do it so much for Chennai, but certainly he did contribute for them. But yeah, he does play an important role if he can do what he did in the last game.
I think that's what, Pretorius has given them something. And I think the fact of the matter is now they look at that order and they're telling themselves that Parnell is also giving them something. Because I think one of the great things that playing a lot of, for English cricket is that the number of matches are just a lot. And you're the sole professional on the team, so you're expected to deliver. So match after match, you get into a certain rhythm. And I think that discipline has been fantastic for Pretorius, because Zach will tell you, nobody ever has doubted the talent that Wayne Parnell has had. But the fact that Wayne Parnell is a bowler that he is today, the discipline that he showed this time is not the discipline that you'd see on his bowling in 2011, 12, or even 17. And I think that between him and Pretorius, if they give those 2 batsmen there, they're like our Jadeja Ashwin or our Jadeja, Hardik, though Hardik is a much better batsman than that if you look at it that way. And that two strong batsmen at that position, 7-8, really changes things. Here it's 6 and 7, perhaps a bit earlier than they'd like, but it's still a formidable 1-2 punch.
Yeah, which is why they were trying to balance things out by setting Pretorius out there, and that was only because they were chasing a mammoth total. Now, Zaheer, India will know that not only have they gone one down in the series, they've gone one down after posting over 200. That doesn't happen too often. So what will the outlook for the batters be? Because once again, they've lost the toss. Once again, they're setting a total. Obviously, you don't walk out and tell yourself, okay, we made 211, we now need 240. You just have to say that how do we approach the batting effort and hence defend it?
Well, the plan is going to remain the same, right? You have to assess the conditions. You have to understand, what is the par total on that particular day, on that particular pitch. So that is something which is going to be very important. The communication around that is going to be key. The start is going to be, again, very key to make sure that you start well. You don't lose early wicket. You've seen that in this format. If you lose early wickets, the pressure is suddenly on the middle order. And if you don't encash on that power play, then it becomes very difficult later on. So that advantage you don't want to lose. So if you're batting first, I think you need to tick those boxes. You need to make sure that you carry on those processes well. Make sure that your power play is good. Set the platform, and then think about what's going to happen. I don't think they will be thinking about what we've scored in the previous game. I think it's about just staying in the moment. The game is going to start on 0-0, so follow the process and get to a total which is going to be winning total on that particular track.
Yeah, we had two interesting contrasting approaches, Joy, in the previous game. One was, of course, Shreyas Iyer, who came out of the blocks firing, jumping down the pitch, trying to hit spinners out of the attack. And then there was Ishan Kishan, who played two different innings. And I think Ishan Kishan's role will be important once again at the top of the order in the absence of the KL Rahuls and Rohit Sharmas of the world. Have a look at that contrast in strike rate.
Unbelievable. And I think Ishan Kishan rode his chances. He wasn't looking very settled in the beginning. He was getting beaten left, right, and center. Gave a top edge, which fortunately, not top edge, but an edge, which fortunately went to the boundary. But here's the thing. That's what everyone looks for. And Zach will tell you, that's what a franchise looks for. When you start badly, struggle around, but you sort of stay there and then make that stay count. And I think that's the one thing that you will get out of teams coached by Rahul Dravid. It's very clear nobody is playing for his place in the team, because I think the message will go out that if you're playing just to make a 40 or a 50, you're not going to be in this team for very long. So everyone knows they have a job. So moment Ishan Kishan survives, his job is to take down the spinners then. The moment Shreyas has been sent in, he's been told, boss, you're the right-left combination, you will take down Keshav Maharaj. Ye aapka kaam hai. You cannot afford not to do it. So that's what is now this team going to play with. Everyone has been told, you get out for 0, there's no problem. You're attacked the ball, you've been told to attack a spinner, you get out, you're trying to loft the ball, you get caught out long on, that's okay. But you are a team, your job now in this 7 to 10 overs is to attack the spinners. And I think that is one message which a Rahul Dravid team, every player will know, what is my job in this particular team? What's my job? And when he's walking into the pitch, he'll say, this is what I've been told to do. And if I get out, that's fine. But if I don't do that job and play selfishly or take too much time or, don't play the way the team needs me to play, then I'm in trouble. I think that's a message which is very clear with the way they batted.
7 to 10, remember, last game, India's best scoring effort, which is slightly unique after the big power play or before the big push at the end. And that was what propelled India to the total. But just to finish on Ishan Kishan, give us a little insight into Ishan Kishan, the person, because he didn't have the greatest season, and he knew that. In the last innings, he didn't have a great first few balls, and he sort of compensated. What is he like, in terms of personality? Because when he started out, he was just like hit ball, see ball, hit ball, whichever way you want to look at it.
I wouldn't like to kind of categorize him in that fashion, like
not anymore. That was your Ishan Kishan.
I think he's more aware of his game, and if at all anything, I've seen a more disciplined version of Ishan Kishan, so which is good. He's got good head on his shoulders. He understands, what responsibility he has. That's very important for an individual to understand what is his potential. Why everyone, what is expected of him, and what is gonna take for him to live up to those expectations. So these are the things which are very important. As far as the season is concerned, I know that you've been talking about that, but if you look at his whole season, he's had a decent season. I mean, if average season of Ishan Kishan is going to be 407 or 410 runs, I will take it any day. So that shows that when he's going to have a good season, what he can deliver. So that's the way I like to look at things. As far as his journey of cricket and international cricket is concerned, he's had a good run. He's understanding more and more. The more he's going to play, he's going to understand his game better. He's going to understand the situations better. And you need you need these tough phases for you to understand what kind of impact you can create. So that's the kind of personality he is. He's a very chirpy guy. He likes to keep things very light, very happy-go-lucky off the field. But when it comes to cricket, he's very dedicated and serious. So those are the things you look at when you talk about Ishan Kishan. He's had a good run in the first match itself, so that's important. So it's about constantly pushing that bar higher and higher, and you've actually already seen a fitter, much stronger version of Ishan Kishan since the start of IPL to now. So that's something. How he finished the IPL also was good. So you've had ups and downs, but you managed to survive and come on top. So that's something which was a big positive.
Yeah, always great to get an insight into the character of a person from someone who spent a lot more time in across a long season, and that's when you really see the character of a person. But we also like to see all of you, all the characters out there who are contributing, listening, watching, and of course giving us feedback. And along with feedback, a few very good questions on hashtag Ask Cricbuzz Live. So what do we have today on our Ask Cricbuzz Live question? And this one comes from Pravesh, and he refers to KL Rahul, Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma rested. All 6 top batters have the freedom to play their natural game without adapting to batting around a 20-over anchor. Is this a T20 batting approach India should consider long term? Now, sometimes these approaches, Joy, can obviously be tempered by the makeup of your side. No Rahul, no Rohit, no Virat. Things can be different. So every individual has to play their own role, irrespective of what's happening around him or who's at the opposite end.
Yeah, look, I agree to a certain extent, definitely, that these people have their own opportunity, and I disagree to a certain extent, because it's not that. See what happens. Suppose you open with a Rahul and a Rohit. Okay, both excellent batsmen. Then what actually happens is, Rohit, for example, will give you, if Rohit is feeling the ball and he's hitting it well, Rahul will take less risks. Okay, if both of them are not getting it in the bat or the ball, they're not getting too much through, then one of them after a couple of overs will start taking risks. But it's not as if Rohit will come and say that, no, I'm not going to hit any balls, I'm just going to see the ball for a while. So I think it's a bit overrated that these things happen. I think, for example, the reason where it really happens is when, especially in the IPL, when one team is hugely dependent on a particular batsman. And a good example of that is, say, David Warner. David Warner, when he played with Sunrisers or even with Delhi, the pressure on him was so much. But what you had batsmen like Prithvi at the other end who could afford to take chances. They said, okay, Prithvi, go take your chances. Rohit will not. Warner will not take chances. I think in the Indian team, that whole thing of Warner playing safe, and here there's much more risk being taken by the other person. I think the difference is not that much. I think they're much closer to each other, and if Rohit gets the ball to hit, he'll smash it out of the stadium. And therefore, there is a difference in approach, but it's not as huge a difference in approach as you would have, as say a Warner would with another batsman. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, interesting one, Zaheer, looking at that question that came out. But if you have a situation, we know about pairs, we know about Warner and Bairstow, we know about Rahul and Rohit, we know about so many pairs that bat together. It's one thing to have bat together and say, okay, the other guy's in form, I'll play well within myself. But what about a full lineup? And Ishan Kishan and the rest of the Indian batting lineup, in the absence of those 3 guys, does it change their mindset and approach at all?
I think it's all condition based. I feel like, if the pitch is not going to allow you to play shots, and you just go in with this approach that, okay, as a team we're going to play this way, you can get into deep trouble as well. And we've seen that with teams. We've seen that with England also in between in ODIs. When they had that plan of we're just going to keep hitting, and they had to alter that. So I think we've seen it with Australia as well. What's important is to understand the conditions. You got to have the ability in your players to be able to take those decisions. So as a batting partnership, you can look at the game in that way. And if you can stay ahead on that particular pitch, say 20%, 25% higher than what a normal team will be doing, or a normal batters will be batting, you're still way ahead of the game. So I think that's the right kind of approach than saying that, okay, we're going to bat in a particular way. Even if you have the batting lineup which shows from 1 to 11, you have all the great batters. But if the conditions are not going to be allowing that, or the bowling which they're facing is going to be of that quality, you still got to understand the phases. You still got to understand and absorb the pressure in different situation, and go with the game. So I think what's important is to play the game and how it's unfolding. You stay on top, you stay ahead of the game. That is something which is important. But you can't be just getting labeled, or getting stuck with a theory or a formula which you think that is going to give you success. That never happens in the game. You got to be able to get everything together on that particular day.
Yeah, and that's certainly what India will hope to do today. They got the batting together, they posted a decent total, made a good start in the first 10 overs, and then came the final 10. Now, Joy, if you have to assess that, and obviously India won't want to do too much of a post-mortem, was it something they look at saying that death bowling, focus on it? Not saying there's anything necessarily wrong with it, but do we need to pay a little more attention to it?
Definitely. I mean, if you go for those many runs, you are going to look at your bowling and say, what's happened to you there? And I think that's the point. I think they depend on Harshal. They'll probably tell Harshal and Bhuvaneshwar, these are experienced bowlers. These are known death bowlers, that you need to do a bit better in these final overs. You cannot give away consecutive 22-run overs, because that's what we give away. 44 runs the 17th and 18th over. 19th and 20th more over, the match was already over. So, that's my point, that they will look at it and they'll say, your plans have gone terribly wrong. What can we do to improve those plans? It's not, again, I think one of the very important things that we realize, which good coaches do, which a lot of other people don't look at, is they will never blame the bowler. They will blame the execution. They won't say you're a bad bowler. They'll say this did not work out here. What can we do differently? And I think coaches like Rahul Dravid will do exactly that. They will say, could we do anything different in our process that will make that difference? And if it's not there, sometimes you even turn around and say that, you know what, the process is fine. It's just that we didn't execute properly, or they were just too good. And sometimes, yes, they are too good. And you have to accept that as well. But that's all they'll do. They'll look at the process and say, is there anything we can fine tune out here which can make a difference? It's not going to be, oh, you were a bad bowler, what did you do out there? Those things don't happen. Those things are in the past, at least in the Indian team, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, you could look at it as a one-off. I mean, we've seen a match between Sri Lanka and Australia where Sri Lanka got 59 in the last 3 overs, which is a record, by the way. Dasun Shanaka leading the way there. And Hazelwood was the first one to suffer. 3 overs for 3 runs, and then went for 22 in his 4th over. So it can happen to the best, Zaheer. But overall, if you have to look at a pattern maybe over 2-3 games, and say you were at the Barabati and one of the bowling unit bowling at the back 10, would you look to do anything different? Or is it just about telling yourself that we had a bad couple of days, we need to again stick to processes, to pardon the cliche?
Well, I was looking at those numbers, and I felt that the sample size is just too small for us to judge anyone on them. Like 2 overs or 5-6 overs is not really a big number for you to understand exactly what is going wrong, and in terms of tactics, what can be done. But generally, when you are talking about death bowling, the one thing which comes to my mind is having that clarity. You can't be thinking about too many things when you are at the top of your run-up. Whatever thinking you have to do, you got to just do it before you get to the top of your run-up. If you are able to do that, after that, whether it's a false execution or a wrong option which you've taken, it doesn't really matter. If you don't have that clarity, that's where the problem starts. If you're confused about whether to bowl a yorker or a slower one or a bouncer or another delivery, then you are always going to be playing that catch-up game, and you will be behind that 8 ball, which often is spoken about. So I think the clarity is going to be the key. It doesn't matter who you're playing against, doesn't matter whether the option which you're taking is right or wrong. If you're clear, if you're committing to it, then more often than not, you will see better results, or the percentage will always be in your favor. So I think that's something which is going to be important from the bowlers.
Yeah, and I think a good example of what Zaheer just said, Joy, is Harshal Patel. It was execution. Those couple of full tosses, he didn't exactly set out to bowl them. He had a plan in mind. He was consistent both times. It turned out to be full tosses. They were dispatched for 6 by Razzie.
Absolutely. And he'll just tell himself, I have to do better execution, and I cannot allow myself to be in a situation where I don't have that other ball. See, one of the problems with the Yorker is that it's not always the easiest ball to execute. And so therefore, sometimes you almost need that second ball and to tell the captain saying that, what, I want to try this. This is a lower risk ball. Because a Yorker is a high risk delivery at the best of times, because execution is so key to it. And if you're a 70%, 80% executor, there's always a 30-20% chance that you're going to be dispatched outside the stadium. So then do you change your plans and you say, okay, I'm going to try a wide Yorker at this pace, or I'm going to try the slower at this and see what we can do. Sometimes you just need that second plan when the bowler is not totally confident of that first plan, even though the first plan is a better option.
Now, the other factor that might end up playing a role, and we feel it could, is the dew factor. With the dry 40-degree summer heat at the Firozshah Kotla in Delhi, we didn't quite see it, but we've come down to Orissa, which is much more humid. 95% humidity expected there. So there's going to be a bit of moisture in the air, whether you like it or not, and that can translate to dew. Now, it could even be dew from the first innings itself, so it may not necessarily be favoring the team bowling first as much.
If the bounce is low, I would like to differ on that. I've seen in conditions where the bounce is low and the dew is around, what happens is ball tend to skid even more. So even the short of length bowling which you're bowling, those deliveries also tend to become very tough, and batters will not have a good judge on the bounce. So so that can actually work in your favor if you're bowling second. We'll have to wait and see. The pitch conditions and how the pitch is behaving. A lot will be dependent on that. But traditionally, what we've seen in Cuttack, if it's low bounce, bowling second is not a bad option.
Fair point. And that's where experience counts. We can all look at theories, but when you've been out there, you've done it, you've executed those deliveries, you know exactly where you're coming from. Once again, a quick reminder, it's India who will be batting first, setting a total yet again in the second match of this 5-match series. For now, India setting a total, Joy setting his questions. Let's keep our pattern going. What is the question for the day, Sri Bhattacharya?
It's an interesting one. I just had fun with it. Sri Lanka's playing, so I thought, what connects Chamika Karunaratne, Fanny de Villiers, and Sunette Viljoen, who's obviously an international cricketer, women's cricketer from South Africa? What connects you three? The list is not exhaustive, but yeah, these three definitely belong to this list.
It's an interesting trio to go with. I was going to say Sunette could be a male or a female name, but we have confirmed Sunette Viljoen is a South African female cricketer. Two others who we are very familiar with, Fanny de Villiers, Chamika it was, right?
Yeah.
Yep, Chamika Karunaratne. So connect the three of them. This is not one of those that you can just jump on Google, so we can have some fun with it. Joy is already looking to see if the answers come in. Has it?
Not yet.
Not yet. Some of his half volleys, Zaheer, by the time we finish saying the question, he's already checked up and the answer's already come in. But yeah,
I missed the half volleys as well.
Yes, we're
going to get a few easier to set than answer, don't worry.
Are we going to get a few half volleys from Kagiso Rabada up front? I don't think so. He's much more into slightly back of a length. He's bowling the opening over. No Keshav Maharaj opening up this time, so we'll see how their tactics go. Ruturaj Gaikwad, Ishan Kishan opening up for Team India. Prediction time, gentlemen. Who would like to go first?
Well, I'll go 165. I'm just going to play safe.
165. I thought you were going to say 93 or something. Okay, 165. We've never actually had someone predict something as ridiculous as that. One day we'll do it. Okay, Zaheer?
I'll still go with 180. I think the series, generally, I'm getting a feeling that it's going to be a high-scoring series.
All right, 165, 180. I went higher last time. Still wasn't enough. They crossed 200. Why not? It might be a bit of low bounce. It could be high scoring. I'll stick to the same pattern. Let's do a repeat of match number 1. I'll go with 188 this time again. So we've got the 160s, the 180, the 188, which extends to the brink of 200. What will India get? Even if they get 200, will it be enough for them to defend? Lots of questions to be answered, and we will attempt to answer them by the 10th over mark, which is when we come back for Cricbuzz Combox. Just a quick reminder, Cricbuzz Plus is always around. Lots of people jumping on it. Here's a quick reminder in case you haven't jumped on. Get on there. Lots to find over there, including interviews and articles. And of course, Retro Reels is there as well. That's all we have on the show on Cricbuzz Live. We'll see you on the 10th over for Cricbuzz Combox.